I'd love to hear your take on a few other wrestlers who fans argue about all the time as to whether or not they belong in the Hall of Fame. Just real quick, let's start with the Bushwhackers. Do you think they belong there?
Um, if you're going to go technical wrestling ability and what have you, like that, was he? Were they ever a huge headlining star? No, but they were always there, and as the Bushwhackers, they got over. They got over. I mean, and they got over big for the position they were in. It's kind of like with wrestling. It's yeah, I can see where it's debatable because you all bushwhackers, a couple of crazy guys that ran around doing this all the time. But when they got in the ring, brother, they were very good workers. So
They were
yeah,
absolutely and captivating and memorable. Like
yeah,
I certainly remember them.
absolutely, yeah.
A couple more names that I'd love to hear your take on. A friend of yours, Tito Santana, is another name that people debate a lot.
Oh gosh, I absolutely wholeheartedly believe that Tito, should be in the Hall of Fame because he's another one of those guys. I mean, a great athlete. I mean, Tito's one of those guys. Tito's real name was Merced Solis, and he and myself, Tully Blanchard, we were all on the same football team, West Texas State. We played football together. Has nothing to do with wrestling, but yeah, Tito, when he got into business, he was good. Again, another guy, good, solid, hardworking guy. I think was he a tag team champion?
I think so. Yeah, with Strike Force, I think, and then I believe that he was Intercontinental Champion as well.
Yeah, and so, um, but yeah, if I think if you would ask, 90% of the wrestlers whether he deserves to be there or not, they'd say yes, absolutely.
I think so too, and I believe he has the winningest record ever in WWE history or something. There was some factoid like that that I
I
heard
didn't know
about.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. All
Of
right,
course, I
last one.
mean, wins and losses really don't mean crap.
Not exactly the same as like a football winning record.
Yeah.
Last one, and this is one that fans kind of debate about the most from what I've heard. Coco Beware. Do you feel like he's a Hall of Famer, Ted?
Oh gosh, Coco's another one of those guys. Great guy. Um, uh, maybe borderline. Um, but again, you have to understand. It's kind of like it's like a football team. There's 11 different positions, you know, and there's a quarterback, there's the backfield, and what have you. And it's like um, you go, okay, this running back or this quarterback was inducted to the Hall of Fame. Oh yeah, why of course, like well then you go down and say, well, what about this guy? He was a defensive tackle or an offensive tackle. Well, they don't ever get much press. Well, some guys don't get a lot of press, but they're good. They're very good at their position. And with that being said, Coco Beware is one of those guys who I can't think of anybody that would say you couldn't have a match with him. He's another guy who could work with anybody, and not the greatest gimmick in the world, but I mean, again, it's all positioning. It's like it's not always going to be, and again, in an entertainment. I mean, okay, if you're looking at wrestling as a sport, you mean, wait a minute. I mean, but it's sports entertainment. How, it's like, okay, let's go to the Oscars. There's a lot of people that I've seen walk across that stage that got an Oscar, and I would be kind of surprised. But then once I saw what everybody was saying about them, you know what I'm saying? I got it. Again, Coco's another one of those guys. Uh, you know, he's not going to be on the top 10 list, but hey, I'm glad he's there.
Ted, I think that's perfectly said. Like the way the analogies that you made there were perfect because
Yeah.
look, I don't think that we can look at wrestling the way that we would look at like the NFL Hall of Fame, where we say like, well,
Yeah,
how many championships did that guy win? How many touchdowns did he pass for? Like that kind of stuff is what people use to judge whether or not somebody belongs in a professional sports Hall of Fame. When it comes to wrestling, I think it can be more about your contributions to the business. You know,
exactly.
and what you brought to the table in your role. And guys like the ones we've named here brought a lot. So I'm with you.
Well, just again, like in the Oscars, there are a lot of people that get Oscars that were never in front of the camera,
Hmm.
that worked behind the camera,
Yep.
and so yeah, it's like, what was your role? Did you play your role well? Again, Coco Beware would be one of those guys. He was never a main eventer. He was, opening match, middle of the card, and he was very good at what he was there for. So,
Perfectly said, Ted. Now, recently on my podcast, The Snake Pit with Jake Roberts, we talked about celebrities in the WWE Hall of Fame. And actually, today, as we're recording this, Jim Duggan, I saw on his social media, just posted a picture of himself along with WWE Hall of Famer Pete Rose. So it's another subject that people debate about a lot, whether or not celebrities belong in the Hall of Fame. Ted, where are you at when it comes to the WWE, including celebrities alongside wrestlers?
I guess the first question I would have is, what did Pete Rose ever contribute to wrestling?
He got beat up by Kane a couple times at WrestleMania.
Okay. But other than that, if there was some significant reason, you know, um, I would say okay. But it's the pro wrestling. It's the pro wrestling Hall of Fame. It's not the baseball Hall of Fame. It's not. It's kind of like it's like take me or some other wrestler and induct us into the professional baseball Hall of Fame. For what?
Right.
And again, there's my answer. What the hell is Pete Rose doing in a wrestling Hall of Fame? What major contribution did he make? Did the contribution that he make, was it significant? I can't remember.
And that speaks volumes. Like if you can't remember, this guy is a huge baseball icon and him being involved in the WWF, I mean, that tells you something. Jake was like, absolutely not. Celebrities have no place in the Hall of Fame. Ironically, he was like, I think it's and Jake was like, I think it's kind of cool that Pete Rose is in there because he can't get into the Baseball Hall of Fame, so we welcome him into ours. He was like, but I was like, what about a guy like Andy Kaufman? Do you think he belongs? And Jake was like, nope. I was like,
No,
how about Mr. T? He was at the first two WrestleManias. Jake is like, nope. so
no,
so
I agree. I agree with Jake. No,
yeah, he's with you. And look, and I said this to Jake. Imagine being a guy who worked in wrestling for 20 years, blood, sweat, tears, broken bones, beat up on the road, making shit money sometimes, but still doing it for love of the game. And
and doing it
look,
well.
and doing it well, and then Mr. T gets in there before you do. It would be very offensive.
I absolutely agree. And so and oftentimes, like the WWE Hall of Fame, a lot of people say, well, it's more of the Vince McMahon Hall of Fame. It's who does Vince want in there? I mean, because it certainly isn't voted on by any of us.
Which really is, I mean, that's a really good point, Ted. Like they should have a panel of Hall of Famers who cast votes.
Yeah. So
Yeah, it's maybe someday down the line that'll be the reality, but I wish it was now.